Sort of the initial aftermath from having your first child is just shock. I mean, it is just shock, isn't it? You know, nothing is the same. Nothing's ever going to be the same again. But I had this kind of, I'd set in motion this plan, and it was kind of there. Well, obviously, it was there before I gave birth to Tilly. Months before I'd got this place in the London Marathon. So even when she arrived, and there were a few complications. I won't bore you with the details, but it wasn't the most straightforward delivery. There were stitches, there was cutting involved, and all sorts of stuff. But that was my go-to place mentally. The goal that I'd set myself was my mental go-to place. It was like, right, okay, this is what you can focus on. This is what you need to focus on, and you can focus on to get physically and mentally well. You've got this ahead. And if we break it down, we can kind of, this is something that you can work towards, that doesn't just mean that you're kind of sucked into a place of overwhelm about all the newness and the responsibilities and the unknown factor of motherhood, that, I had no answers. It was like, in the absence of the mental health medication too, that was the first time, the 9 months through pregnancy and then beyond, that was me being completely free and totally detoxed of any mental health meds too. So it was kind of the massive goal, and it felt massive and scary, but I went to that immediately as a go-to place, as something to kind of reach out for, and it's something to not only not keep me on track, because you're not on any track when you've just had a child. It's kind of that was a track to go to. It was like, right, okay, this is how we're going to get physically well, this is how you're going to rebuild, this is what you're going to focus on, and this is how mentally you're going to find the strength to deal with all the things that come with motherhood, with running your own business, and with kind of this place of just endless unknowns. So immediately I kind of threw myself into it, and I did do some silly things. I mean, she'd been home for about 2 days. I was still had many stitches in certain parts of my anatomy that I'm sure you can imagine, and I took her in the pram on this like speed walk. We lived high on a hill, so I took her sort of down the hill, really speed walking. It was winter. It was, I remember it being just very, very cold, and she like I say, she'd only been out for a matter of days, and I kind of pushed her up this very steep hill in the pram, and I remember the sweat dripping down my back, and when I got back home, I'd ruptured the stitches, and I needed to go back into hospital to get antibiotics. So I hadn't let my body recover. So there was a bit of, I was almost too eager to get on that bandwagon, and I perhaps didn't appreciate the healing that my body needed to do. And I don't think that's not the smartest way to come back from pregnancy, kind of pushing your body to that extent. And it's not something that I would suggest anybody, does, because
no, I know.
really, who wants to be going back to the hospital, which I had to get a series of antibiotics because I'd ruptured things and needed, got secondary infections. I mean, that wasn't great, and it wasn't very clever.